I knew I was out of place the second I sat down at the wedding and saw it. My nameplate, asterisk, asterisk, low educated. Fake father, asterisk, asterisk. Polished, gold, displayed in front of my seat like a joke. The whole room was in on. Around me, the nameplate sparkled with titles: doctor, professor, CEO. My label wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate, a humiliation. The bride's family didn't even try to hide their laughter. Some chuckled behind their napkins. Others laughed openly, as if I were part of the entertainment. It echoed through the marble hall, like a slap I wasn't allowed to react to. My cheeks burned, my hands trembled, but I stayed still until I couldn't anymore. I reached for my coat. My instinct was to leave quietly, disappear like an uninvited guest at his own son's celebration. But before I could walk away, my son reached out and grabbed my hand. He didn't look ashamed. He didn't say sorry. He just leaned in close and whispered, asterisk, Dad, let's go home. Asterisk. And that's when I knew he had seen it. He knew what they'd done. And he let it happen. That night, I didn't sleep. The laughter looped in my head. I kept hearing the bride's father's smug voice. Asterisk, well, education matters, you know? Biology doesn't make you a father. Asterisk, they looked at me like I was a relic, a taxi driver fossil, a stain on their perfect pedigree. Maybe I didn't have their degrees, but I had something none of them would fake. 25 years of love, sweat, sacrifice. I raised that boy alone. Changed his diapers with hands stained in engine grease. Worked double shifts just to afford his textbooks. I went hungry more than once, so he could eat well. I borrowed, begged, and bled, so he'd never feel the shame I grew up with. But none of that mattered in that hall. To them, I was just a shadow in his past. And to him, I was something to outgrow. It wasn't always like that. When he was 5 and asked why his mother left, I told him gently, asterisk, she wasn't ready to love like we deserve. Asterisk, and he hugged me like I was enough. When he got a scholarship, I wept harder than he did. He promised, asterisk, one day, I'll take care of you like you took care of me. Asterisk, but success has a way of rewriting stories. Somewhere between his promotion and polished accent, he forgot us, forgot me. The morning after the wedding, I drank my tea in silence. My hands still smelled like tools and gasoline. I opened LinkedIn out of habit, and there it was. His company just merged with a biotech giant, the bride's father's firm. The wedding wasn't just a celebration. It was a business move, and I was the final loose end they needed to bury. That nameplate, it wasn't just an insult. It was a message. They wanted to erase who he was by erasing me, but they forgot one thing. I may not be book smart, but I'm not stupid. I drove to my old garage and opened a locked drawer. Inside was an old laptop I hadn't touched in over a decade. Dusty but not dead. I charged it, opened it, and there it was, a folder labeled Eureka. It held everything. Every payment I'd ever made toward his education. Every rupee, every borrowed penny, every debt I quietly repaid. I documented it all, not for revenge, but because I was proud. But buried in that folder was something more dangerous. A file labeled Project AT. It was a full record of funds funneled through a charitable trust, registered under my name. A trust his company had used to pad their /&D expenses, fake donations, falsified reports. And they used my ID to make it all look clean. I didn't go to the police. I went to someone better, his co-founder's assistant. She used to work late nights back when I brought food to the office during my son's internship days. She remembered me, remembered that I always brought extra in case she hadn't eaten. I sent her a single message. Asterisk, check your founder's quarterly filings. Follow the trust money. Asterisk, she went quiet. 4 hours later, I received a text. Asterisk, watch the news tomorrow. 10:42 a.m. Asterisk, at 10:42, their company's site crashed. Twitter account gone. At 10:47, LinkedIn announced the resignation of the co-founder. Asterisk, I will not be part of fraud. Asterisk, at 11:10, every major financial outlet ran the story. A massive leak. tax fraud, false expense reports, and illegal use of charitable trust tied to my name. At 12:03, a news anchor read the line that made the world stop. Asterisk, sources confirm the groom's father, a retired mechanic and single parent, unknowingly bore legal liability for fraud. Asterisk, I didn't smile. I didn't cheer. I sat by the window and watched the sky go gray. That evening, my son came to the door. No security. No press. Just him. Alone. Small. Dad, he said, voice cracked. Asterisk, I didn't know about the nameplate. That wasn't me. Asterisk, I looked at him and replied. Asterisk, your silence was. Asterisk, he said nothing. I stood calmly. Asterisk, I raised a son, not a shareholder, not a pawn. I gave you my name, my life. And when they mocked it, you said nothing. You laughed with them. Asterisk, he stepped forward. I didn't. I raised a hand to stop him. Asterisk, you sold your soul to become one of them. Now rebuild it all without the man you buried to get there. Asterisk, I turned around and walked back inside. He didn't follow. People think revenge is loud, explosive, but mine wasn't. It was a whisper behind a closed boardroom door, a crack in a polished press release, a name once ignored, now feared. I was never a fake. I was the foundation. And when they laughed, they never realized the floor beneath them was already breaking. He called me low-educated, but I taught him a lesson he'll never forget, without ever raising my voice.